Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. Hope you're all having a fantastic day. So today we're going to talk about this versus that. What do I mean? I mean this Kawasaki KRX 1000 versus that Honda Pioneer 1005. So ever since I've gotten the KRX, I've gotten lots of questions from people of which one's better, this one or that one. Which one should they buy? So there's no real answer for that. I mean, it's apples to oranges, or honestly, as it sits, it's apples to grapefruit. But you can compare the two and see which one works best for you. So I'm going to compare these two machines, well, because these are the two machines that I have. So let's talk about them. Now, everything I talk about today is going to be in stock form. And that's a big deal because, you look at the Pioneer, it's on 35s, it's got about 6 inches of lift. But in actuality, if you look at the Pioneer, it's really, the suspension travel hasn't changed, the wheelbase has changed from the A-arms, and it's a little bit wider with bigger tires. But the engine, all that stuff is still stock. So when I refer to the numbers today, it's going to be on the stock Pioneer 1005. So, what do they have in common? Well, they're both blue. They both have four-wheel disc brake. And they both have 999cc engines with 4 valves per cylinder. And they're a twin parallel engine, which means the cylinders sit just like this. Now, what's different on them? The Honda here has a 6-speed dual clutch transmission, where the Kawasaki is a wet clutch belt drive. So that means this thing uses a belt to drive, and this has a real transmission. So that makes it a little bit more difficult to put larger tires on her because you have a specific gear for each range of speed. First gear can only go this fast, second gear, just like in your car or pickup truck. What else is different between the two? Well, quite a bit. Suspension travel, let's start there. Pioneer has between 10 and 10.6 inches of suspension travel. KRX on the front has 18.6 and the back has around 21 inches of suspension travel. That's wheel travel up and down. That's almost double versus this. Now, the Pioneer runs around 12.4 inches of ground clearance. Every model is a little bit different, but that's stock on this model. And it comes with a 27-inch tall tire, where the KRX comes with around 14 inches of ground clearance, give or take. But it comes with a 31-inch tall tire. So that's pretty impressive that there's really only about an inch and a half difference of ground clearance when this thing is running a 4-inch taller tire stock from the factory. So you gotta give Honda some credit there. So now let's go ahead and talk about this comparison, because I actually came up with 5 categories we can compare them with. I did work, play, fit and finish, maintenance, and then cost. So I know some of these categories are kind of be like, everyone knows that work's gonna go over here and play's gonna go over here, but just bear with me, some of the stuff I say might surprise you, and I'm going off all the factory specs on both these machines. So let's jump right into this and go straight to the work category. Honda Pioneer. Now mine is not a California edition, so my capacities are just a little bit higher. So from the factory, the Pioneer comes with a 2-inch hitch receiver, which allows it to tow 2,000 pounds. It also comes with a dump bed and has a carrying capacity of 1,000 pounds. And then you have the availability of using the front seat to carry 3 adults. Honestly, it might be a little tight, but it has the availability when you're working the machine. Now let's talk about the KRX and its capacities and how well it can work for you. So you want to tow a trailer? There's no receiver. You can buy an aftermarket one, but there's nothing on the books from Kawasaki on how much this thing can tow. I'm not saying the belt drive is bad to tow with. There's other side-by-sides out there that are belt drives. The Mule, the Can-Am Defender, the Polaris Ranger, that are all utility machines that can tow with a belt. This just doesn't have one. It does have a bed on the back, even though it's not a dump bed. It has a 351 payload capacity for the bed, and a total combined capacity between the passenger compartments and the bed of 781 pounds. Now, just because it's a sport machine and has less of a capacity, don't let that stop you from working it. I know a lot of people who only have sport machines that throw their tools in the back and go out and do stuff where needed. And finally, one last category on the work I want to talk about is, well, the rear end of these machines. The Honda Pioneer has what they call turf mode. So you can unlock the rear differential. So if you're out on a property where you don't want to tear up the lawn, you can basically put it into one-wheel drive. So you're not tearing up your grass, your turf, whatever surface you may be on, or just leaving black marks on the asphalt or pavement. With a Kawasaki KRX, the rear end is always locked. But that's because it's a pure sport machine. It doesn't have the option to unlock the rear end. So for that category, I gotta give the work category to the Pioneer. Nice thing about the Pioneer, you drive around, if it gets too loud, just upshifts, driving around the neighborhood, you can actually have a conversation. Let's jump right in category number 2, fun. And I think we all know where this is gonna go. We'll start with the Honda Pioneer again. So the Pioneer, honest to God, is a lot of fun. You know, when you're driving this thing, and you got paddle shifters, I mean, that's a lot of fun, and that's why they put them on the Talon. This thing is sporty for what it is. Now, if your idea of fun is running Forest Service roads, fire roads, doing some four-wheeling, but mainly taking it from your property, wherever you're at, working all day, and then heading out to the trails, Pioneer is great for that. I mean, the Pioneer, honestly, is a great machine. It does everything very well. It's just not perfect at any one thing. So yeah, it's fun, but honestly, you get a little beat up with the limited wheel travel, 10 inches. So unless you're taking a family of 5, it's not as fun as the KRX. So the KRX, fun, well, let's jump right into suspension travel. I mean, from the factory, you get almost 20 inches front and rear suspension travel. The seats. Now the seats are nice, I think they're comfortable, and you can get a factory, they call it the Click 6. So instead of having a 3-point seatbelt, you can have a 6-point seatbelt that really hugs you in there. Nice adjustable steering wheel with the gauges adjusting with it. So the fun factor, honestly, if you're out there wanting to go fast, carve the trails, or even just like into really hardcore mudding or rock crawling, the fun factor, I gotta give the KRX. Now driving the Pioneer around the neighborhood is definitely quieter and it's a little bit more refined, and it's enjoyable because you can have a nice conversation. It's kind of like your Sunday drive arounds, where the KRX, well, it's more of like the Friday night cruiser. So when you get out and get on it, you definitely can. Tied up 1-to-1. One for the Pioneer for work, one for the KRX for fun. And I think everyone kind of assumed that. Let's jump into the third category, fit and finish. Now let's look at both these machines and see which one is actually better off. So looking at the Pioneer, we have these really nice door panels. And one of the reasons I really like the Pioneer is you can buy all new panels for your doors relatively cheap. Also, the door handles are only on the inside. Now, fit and finish, I've already replaced the door hinges on the Honda Pioneer because they do tend to sag just a little bit. But other than that, I haven't had many issues with the Honda Pioneer on the fit and finish. Now, some people will complain that it does get hot on the seats and it gets hot in the back seat. Understand that you're physically sitting on top of the engine. I don't tend to have that issue, but it has been a complaint, and Honda did actually address that subject. So personally, I think the fit and finish on the Honda Pioneer is really good. Now let's jump over here to the Kawasaki KRX. Again, KRX fit and finish is actually really good. One of the issues I've seen is these doors right here. Now if you look at the top of the store, there is a small gap right there. I have seen where people will put a piece of tape right here. Another thing on the fit and finish with the KRX is the seats. Now they're nice seats, but they do move more than I think they should. Now when you're driving, it's a nice, smooth ride. The seat doesn't tend to move, but when you're sitting still, you can feel the seat move. Other than that, the fit and finish on the Kawasaki KRX is really good in my eyes. So for this category, I would give it a tie, honestly. The fit and finish on both machines is much better than others I've seen in the past. Brand new. Let's jump right in category number 4, maintenance or serviceability on these machines, because that's where stuff really starts to get different. So let's start with the Honda Pioneer. You have a front differential, you have a sub-transmission, you have 2 oil drains for the engine oil, you have a rear differential, you have an air filter, and then you have an oil filter and a transmission filter, all with just the Honda Pioneer. On the Kawasaki KRX, you have a front differential, you have your engine oil, and then you have a rear differential, an air filter, a drive belt, and then you have a spin-on canister style oil filter. And that's a big difference from the Honda where it's a canister. So maintenance on these. They both have front differentials, they both have rear differentials. That's the same. The engine oil gets a little bit more tricky. On the KRX, it's pretty simple. You drain the oil, change the filter, fill it up, it's nice and easy. On top of the KRX has a very nice easy fill and a sight glass with no dipstick. With the Pioneer on the other hand, you have to drain the engine oil in 2 different spots because it's a dry sump. You also have the engine oil filter and the transmission oil filter, even though they share the same oil. Those are cartridge style filters, so now you also have to buy a couple of O-rings on top of an extra filter. I don't mind the extra filtration, but it's a little bit more work. Then you need to change your sub-transmission fluid, which is a completely different case than the engine oil. It doesn't share it like the KRX. Now, filling the oil on the Pioneer is much more difficult than the KRX, and it does have dipsticks for both the engine oil and the sub-transmission. Now, the air filter in the Honda Pioneer is kind of a pain to change. It has lots of little Allen heads all the way around, and it's very difficult to get to those. Then once you get all those off, you have an internal gasket, and then you have another Allen head to remove the air filter. While the KRX, honestly, it just pops off, no tools required. And finally, for the maintenance-wise in your KRX is the belt drive and servicing it. So there's quite a few bolts to take off. It's about 15 or 20, I don't quite know. If you're just going to blow the system out, it's not a big deal. If you're actually going to change the belt, there's another small housing you have to take off and then use a tool, which is theoretically just a bolt, to spread the clutches apart to change your belt. So maintenance-wise, even with the belt drive, it goes to the Kawasaki. It's just a lot easier. The air filter on this thing is just a beast. It takes some extra O-rings. And finally, let's talk about cost. And this is where it kind of was interesting to me. So we'll start over here with Pioneer. This is a 2017 Honda Pioneer 1005 Deluxe. That means it's the 5-seater, so I got the 2 seats in the bed, and it's the deluxe version. And what does the deluxe give you? Well, it gives you the LED headlights. It gives you 14-inch aluminum rims over the 12-inch steel rims, and it gives you the color panels for the doors. There's a few extra options. When I bought this, the MSRP was $17,299, plus the extra destination fees and whatever else Honda wants to talk to you about. But we're only going to talk about the MSRP. So I looked it up today. The 2021 version of a Pioneer Deluxe 1005, $17,299. Hasn't changed in 4 years. That's pretty cool. Now, let's talk about price of this. Now, with KRX, there's a couple different options you can get. There's a trail version, there's something else with the stereo, and then there's the ES version that just came out, and that's with the electric shocks. This is the base model. No frills, no nothing, because I can add everything to this except for the electric shocks that the other versions have. The MSRP on this is $20,499. So it is over $3,000 more expensive for this as a base version. Now this does have 15-inch nice bead locks that come with it, aluminum headlights and all that stuff. Now cost of maintenance, it actually costs more to maintain the KRX if you're changing the belts. If you're not changing the belt, it's kind of a wash. It costs about the same. A quart of oil is a quart of oil. The Honda does take more oil. There's a few extra things you have to buy, but it's not a real big difference. The belt on here is $160 to $180 from Kawasaki. Now I know you can get some cheaper ones out there, but we're just talking OEM. So in this category, I gotta give it to the Pioneer. Really, out of either vehicle, there's not a bad one to buy. They're both great in their own way. If you want something that's going to be way more work, but you can still go on trail and have fun, Pioneer's your thing. I mean, this will go anywhere. This will go just not as easily. Now, if you want something that you're mainly going to go play with, but you want the ability to put some work to it, you know, throw your tools in the back, go do something around the ranch or the property, you can get away with this. Just remember, the rear end of this is locked, so you may end up tearing up your property just a little bit, but it's really a wash. There's really no bad decision here. It's tied. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and until next time.